Hey everyone, it's Royal Flush here. This is just a very quick video to show you the power and capability of some of the tools that are available from Procedural Worlds from the asset store for Unity. I'm using Unity 2018.3. I've already imported all of the products. This is actually a project that I've got on the go already. I just wanted to show you a very quick example of how quick and easy it is to set up some really amazing looking terrains very, very quickly. I'm having to use a display capture for reasons that I can't see all the tabs if I open them, so bear with me if I have to alt tab out of something. I'll try not to. So just to give you a very, very quick demo, we hit Control G to bring up the Gaia manager. You get a choice of controller, and obviously you can adapt this on the fly afterwards. Normally I would go for a first person, but for now I'm just going to show you a flying camera. Powerful desktop. You can have the renderer. It's built for lightweight and HD rendering as well. Terrain size, 2 square kilometers is pretty good for me normally. You can go smaller if you want something a bit diddier. You can go massive. Unity's not generally very good at doing massive terrains unless you're streaming them, which Procedural Worlds have a tool that can do that called Sector, which I'm not going to be showing you today because I've only just got it and not 100% with it. So for now, we'll just do a 2 square kilometer terrain. All these resources, these are the things that it's going to spawn into the world for us. So the textures and the little villages and stuff. These are all easily adaptable if you wanted to go and tweak them later on. So we start by creating our terrain and showing our stamper. For some reason I'm on 2D view, that's because I've been doing UI stuff on the other project. And there's our stamper. I'm just going to pop the Gaia manager down here for a minute. So here's my terrain. Now at the moment it's a bit dull and boring, so we need to add a bit more interest to this. So we're going to Gaia, stamps. Incidentally, this is Gaia 1.9 that I'm using. There is now Gaia Pro out, and there will be Gaia 2 once Gaia Pro is stabilized, which has more powerful features, is a bit more adaptive, and you can do quite a bit more with, and is a little bit more user-friendly and intuitive. I've had a go with Gaia Pro, but I was using Unity 2019.3, which is unstable. You need 2019 to use Pro. So, and while it's in beta, I'm just sort of happier using what I know for now. I will eventually go back to Pro, I'm sure. Anyway, I'm whittling on. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to get us a nice set of islands. So my hierarchy, get my stamper. I'm just going to lock that in place for a minute and grab this island. That looks quite nice. So you can see immediately it's going to give us an idea of what we're going to be getting. Let's just bring the height down a little bit. I want this to be a little bit more flat. I'm going to unground the base, raise it up so we've got something like that. I'm going to put a bit of a distance mask on it as well, so that it's a little more tapered around the edges, and we're going to hit stamp. And bish bash bosh, it stamps my island like that. Take the preview off, and you can see what Gaia has created for me. Let's go again. Let's put the preview back on. Let's take this out here a bit and spin it round. And maybe make it a little bit smaller. Let's do something like that. Stamp again. This is the same stamp, incidentally, but you wouldn't know to look at it. Let's change the stamp up because we want to get something a bit more interesting going on. And let's take this over here. It's a bit flat. So let's give it some sort of rugged, hillsy looks. And stamp. So you can see how this sort of fairly intuitive stamp system is really good at populating and creating a terrain very, very quickly. Let's go back to there. Let's add some mountains to it. And let's make this big over here. Nice tall mountain. Sort of like over there, slightly separate from the rest of the island. Preview off. Stamp. Bosh. That's a nice mountain for us. Now, I'm doing this very, very quickly. I'm not really thinking about landscaping and terraforming in a good, game design sort of way. I'm just throwing stuff together to show you the power of what you can do out of the box in about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm just going to do one more stamp over here. Let's just put our preview on so we can see what that's like. That's a bit tall. Let's bring it down to something more like that. Over here, maybe I'll give this a little bit of a waterway that you've got to pass to get to it. And it's good to me. And stamp that. Cool. So you can see at the edge of the terrain, I'm just in danger of having the sheer edges of the terrain, which I sort of like to avoid, but that seems to have worked pretty well. just to demonstrate one more thing, I'm going to get you a river, and we're going to switch from raise height to lower height. So instead of actually building up on top of the terrain, it's actually going to eat into the terrain. That's massive at the moment, so let's make that a little bit smaller. And drop it down a bit, raise the height a bit, bring it up a little bit more, get close to it so I can really see what's going on in there. That'll do, and stamp that, and you'll see that's going to create a nice little river for me. Actually, I think that's a bit deep, if I'm honest. So let's just make it a bit more shallow. Try something more like that. Yeah, that'll do. So nice little river going on in there as well. Now, once we're happy oops, with our terrain like that, what do we do with it? Well, let's go back to our Gaia manager, Control G, which is down here. And we're going to create our spawners. Now, the spawners are the things that are going to bring a bit more interest to the terrain. So first of all, let's spawn some textures. Now, this is just a standard terrain texture that was set up at the beginning with sand, scrub grass, mountain terrain, and rocks. And you hit spawn, and there's a set of rules on these spawner rules. So depending on the height of the terrain, or the placement, or the steepness of it, it will spawn a different texture to that terrain. And you can go and tweak these rules to change the splat map around to get exactly how you're wanting, and change which textures and stuff are in there. It's just going to take 30 seconds or so to fully spawn over this terrain. See, it's quite a rugged terrain. There are not very many flat areas, which is sort of, kind of fine. It might make it a bit interesting when it comes to spawning game objects. Little villages and stuff, they may not spawn quite as well. If you're like me, you're more sort of about world building and manual placement. But if you want something just, a world out of the box that you can do stuff with, then it's really good for that. So as you can see, Gaia has painted the terrain really nicely for me. It still looks a bit ugly at the moment because we're using the standard Unity shader. In a minute, I'm going to show you CTS, which is an additional product you can get on top of Gaia. It doesn't come with Gaia, but it's in addition to. See, that's not great there, that I've got a sort of sheer cliff edge, but like I say, I'm doing something very quickly, and you can have a play with this and sort of fiddle to your heart's content. So I've got that. Let's spawn some game objects. So again, the spawner rules, this is just the standard one out of the box. Rock piles, small farms, medium farms, small villages, and copses. All I do is hit spawn, and it's going to have a think. And you can see now it's starting to populate my terrain with all these different things. If I have a little zoom in, we might even be able to see them populating. So there we are, a couple of villages have turned up, which is great. It's thinking about where to place them. It'll actually show me them in here, the spawned game objects. So I've got a couple of farms, a few rock piles, still spawning for me. Let's give this a second. Nearly there. And getting up to the end of 90%. I think I've got quite a lot of stuff open, which is why it's taking slightly longer than it might normally. Okay, so we've got some game objects been spawned in there. Let's just go and have a little zoom in and see what we've got. So small farm 5. Let's just go and look specifically down at this farm down here. You can see we've got a nice little farm on the beach here with a tree, which you wouldn't ordinarily see on a beach, I suppose. Like I say, this is out of the box, so you can customize and tweak, but just to give you an idea. That'll do for game objects. Right, trees. Trees are very important. Let's get some clustered trees. So trees which are come in sort of natural clusters. Now, not all of these trees, I will say for nothing, not all of these trees come out of the box. The trees that come out of the box are the conifers, the broadleafs, and the palms. That's a broadleaf, I think. And obviously these spawn directly into the terrain. Because I'm working on on another project, and I've slightly adapted this tree spawn. You can see I've got a broadleaf conifer, I've got blue spruce, American elm, red maple, and Scots pine. These are all available from the SpeedTree desktop tree package, which you can also get from the asset store. But you get broadleaf and conifer, and you also get palm, which aren't there out of the box. As you can see, that's just put a load of trees onto my terrain. Let's get some coverage trees just to give it a bit more interest. As a sort of cluster trees come in sort of groups to give a natural formation and coverage to sort of fill in the gaps a little bit. The detail spawners, so this is going to be grasses, ferns, and flowers. This one might take a little bit longer because there's quite a lot to fill in. So we'll just give this a few seconds. But again, this is all spawned directly onto the terrain, so they're not sort of instantiated game objects. They become a part of the terrain, so they render a lot nicer. So you can see already, before I've even put any posh sort of stuff or post-processing or nice lighting into this, it's already starting to look like a reasonable game world. It's not great. It's not it's not going to win any awards here, but you can see I've got a sort of a basic overworld that I'll be able to go in and play with. And this, like I say, this is before I've actually done any fiddling, any tweaking. This is just out of the box in 5 or 10 minutes. So it's taken slightly longer because it's I've got quite a few things that I'm running at the moment. Also, it's quite a big terrain. 2 square kilometers is quite a long way, and it's got to cover the whole thing with grass and stuff. I'm slightly disappointed I haven't got more farms and things. So I've got this farm here, but it depends what you're after for your game. What you can do, what I haven't demonstrated, is that you can just hit the spawn button again, and it will respawn another load. So if I hit to spawn some more trees now, it would bring even more trees in if I don't feel like I've got enough at the moment. So obviously these speed trees are already lodded, so you can see as they go from billboards into close up as I move, and that's quite a reasonably smooth animation that we've got there. Just over halfway through the spawning of the details, and you'll see the details really will sort of bring it to life a lot more than it currently is. So it looks a bit sort of flat and plain at the moment. The details will just make it pop that a little bit more. So let's give this a few seconds. I'll point out the reason it's taken so long is almost certainly because I'm recording it. So I'm going to have a little vape. 85% nearly there. So far, everything you've seen apart from the red trees and a few of the other trees is Gaia out of the box. There's no additional stuff. This is all just Gaia. Now you can see what I mean about the grass that's come in there. That's really making the place pop a lot more. And these are just settings out of the box. You can tweak and edit so that they, you can get grass on steeper gradients and so on. But already it's looking pretty nice, even at a distance there. That's quite a nice scene. So that's the spawner's done. So let's go back to the Gaia manager a minute, which is here. Next thing we're going to do is create player post effect screenshot of skies, water, and wind. Okay, we hit that button, and it's going to add the ambient sky sample, the player, the water, and everything else. So give this a minute. While it brings in lighting could not be created because ambient skies exist in this project. Please use ambient skies. Okay, so I've already brought ambient skies into this project, so I'm not actually able to bring it in again, and I don't want to screw up the project I'm working on at the moment. What's that done? That has brought in screenshot of the ambient water samples. I'm actually going to show you something different. The ambient water is quite nice, but it's not as good as Aquas, which I can show you. So if we go in the Gaia manager, we go to GX, Dogmatic, Aquas. Actually, just before I do that, I'm going to delete the water plane that we've already got. Ambient water samples. Just get rid of that. And then add Aquas. And then Aquas water plane. There it is. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger so that it goes into the horizon. So this is the Aquas water, which I personally think is nicer than the Unity water, because it's a dedicated water shader rather than the out of the box. Excuse me. Yeah. What but I might show you a before and after. I'll take the aqueous water off in a minute. I'll show you the alternative. So here, now we need to do the ambient skies thing. Now, this is going to automatically do something because of what I've got on my other project. So we go procedural worlds, ambient skies, ambient skies. Isn't using ambient, so we have saved your use settings, user profile. Okay, that's fine. So we go in here, and first of all, we're going to turn on the, first of all, let's enable post-processing. So immediately, it's going to completely revolutionize the scene. Let's add HDR skies. It's very nice. I'll do nicely. Post effects profile. It's defaulted to Blockbuster 2. You've got a load of options here. This is the full version of ambient skies, by the way. You get a sample version of ambient skies out of the box, but if you want proper ambient skies, that's an additional product that you can buy, which has got all these extra options in. But if you say high fantasy, or you can go pot of green, that's one of the ones I'm using in my game at the moment. Soft warm, grayscale. So a huge amount of options. Let's stick with Blockbuster 2, which is the one I've recommended to begin with. You can change the. Oh, that's one because I edited that one. It doesn't normally look like that. Sky 5 mid, Sky 5 low, Sky 5 high. So there's a huge amount of options. Let's go Sky 5 high, and it's recommended forest for that. So let's just stick with that. Again, this is the full version of ambient skies. You get a sample of it for all the post-processing and the skyboxes. You get that sample with Gaia as standard. I'm just showing you a sort of the next step up. Now, the one thing I haven't added yet is CTS, which again is not a standard, but it's an additional thing. It's a really nice texture shadering software. So if we go Procedural Worlds, CTS, add CTS to all terrains, it's going to add it there. And then you just connect to Profile, and these all come as standard with CTS. And what this is going to do, if I add, let's say, G4 Basic, it's going to make my textures look really, really nice compared to the Unity standard shaders. So we'll just give this a minute. See, that one's not quite so good. I'm not a big fan of that. Let's try G6. G6 is a bit nicer, I think. And again, all these profiles you can trial and error them and see what you like. That's quite nice. I quite like G6. So there's G6, and you see my rock textures are much, much nicer. My ground textures are great. So the extra things you've got here, this is Gaia with CTS, aqueous water, and ambient skies, which is skybox and post-processing. You get a sample of ambient skies with Gaia. You would need to buy the full version of aqueous and the full version of CTS to get it looking exactly like this. I could go further. I could add ambient sounds and a whole myriad of other things, but I think just to give you an idea, this will probably do for now. Let's go and have a look and see what we've created in, what, 20 minutes? Let's have a little look. As we hit play. So let's go and have a look around our world that we've got here. You can see it's working really, really nicely. The CTS, this is the CTS texturing, so the ground is looking much nicer. All of this created by Gaia. Post-processing looks really, really nice. These trees are looking fab, the rock placement. Let's go down to the water so I can show you the aqueous water. As I said, aqueous doesn't come with Gaia, but it's relatively cheap and does work out the box. And I think it looks really, really nice right there. It has got an underwater effect. I've not put it on at the moment. I might do that in a minute. But there's an underwater effect that you can use with it as well. The last thing I'm going to add, I'm not going to bake it because that would take ages, but I'm just going to show you Aura 2, which is a volumetric light out of the box thing. So I've got Forest as the proposed profile enabled. If I turn Aura Ambient Forest light on, suddenly see I've got this amazing volumetric light, and that's a single click. And again, Aura is another product, or rather Aura 2 is another product that you can buy. Let's try Sunny Day. I think Sunny Day is probably a bit more appropriate for this scene because it's not that foresty. And let's just add the Aquos underwater effects, which I probably should have done at the beginning. Dogmatic, Aquos, add underwater effects. There we go. And we go back into play mode. And you'll see very, very quickly we're able to create a scene that looks amazing and takes all of the aggro out of creating an overworld. It's going to give you sort of, you know, AAA looking quality in Unity in the space of, you know, whatever time you need to get used to the software, and then half an hour's playing around. Of course, the limit is how far you want to take this program in terms of, you know, how can you make this look, you know, even better. You can see there, because I've extended the water, I've got that bleed line on the terrain. Oh, excuse me, what I'd normally do is put another plane underneath the terrain to sort of extend it, so you'd lose that line a little bit. And there's all sorts of little tweaks and techniques you can do to add it, but in terms of actually building your world and your play area, it does a huge amount out of the box. And you can see that volumetric light working really, really powerfully there. Let me just switch this over to forest a minute, just to show you the difference. So you can see the fog is much more dense. One of the great things about the newer version of Aquos, you can see at the moment the volumetric light isn't working with Aquos, but it has got a depth buffer script on Aquos 2020 that you can add so that it will respond to the volumetric light, because at the moment it looks a bit weird, the water, but you can get away around that with Aquos. I don't know if the Gaia water will let you do that with this volumetric light, but this a relatively this volumetric light is relatively new to the market. It's only been out about sort of 4 or 5 months, so it will invariably have some tweaks and tips that you can change it with in due course. And even here you can see the water's a bit dark. Like I say, the latest version of Aquos, you have got a depth buffer that will help you get around that. Speaking of Aquos, let's just go and have a look underwater. Here's one of my little farms here. You see that's just sort of spawned onto the terrain, slightly underground, but you know, does the best. You know, it looks pretty good for me. And these are samples that are included with Gaia. These are from the 3D Forge Village Exteriors pack, and you can get the full version of those to get even more diversity into your scene. So now, when we go underwater, again, I've done something weird to this because it's not behaving in quite the way I expected it to. But you can see I've got a sort of underwater script going on there, and you get the runoff when you come out. Okay, so again, there's some tweaks and things I'd want to change to this, but hopefully you can see that out the box, you've got a substantial play area with very little effort that you could have, you know, a huge amount of fun with. And that there is Gaia for the terraforming. I've then added the Aquos water rather than the Gaia standard water, CTS terrain shader to make the terrains look really nice. Ambient skies, I've used the full version, but there is a sample of it with Gaia to get the really lovely post-processing on these fairly sexy skyboxes. And then on top of that, I've used Aura 2 volumetric light to really make it glimmer and sparkle and shine. And as you can see, the majority of that is right out of the box. You can pick up and play, have a play around with the software, and then it's, you know, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can achieve. So hopefully that's been useful in terms of seeing the sort of the power of these software. Everything there, apart from Aquos, is by Procedural Worlds. So Gaia's Procedural Worlds, CTS is Procedural Worlds and Nature Manufacturer. Aquos is by Dogmatic. And then you've got Ambient Skies, which is Procedural Worlds as well. Sector, which is the terrain streaming thing, which will make improve performance a little bit and help transition to scenes. That's from Procedural Worlds. You can also get ambient sound, Path Painter and Pegasus, which Path Painter does exactly what it says on the tin, really good for world building and helping paint paths. Pegasus is really good for driving objects, usually cameras, through your scene, so it's really, really good for making really smooth trailers. And then you've got Gina, which is a sort of world building thing and helps you just, in the same way you can paint trees onto your terrain, it's good for sort of painting world objects and really useful for world building. It will just sort of automatically align things to the terrain, that can save you a huge amount of time. Not enough time in this video to show you everything, but I hope, just as a quick glimpse, that's been really useful for you. So yeah, there you go. Procedural worlds, check them out, and Gaia. Most of that is available out of the box. I've just done a few additional things there just to show you the power of what you can get in a few clicks and a few minutes. Up in Royal Flush, nice to talk to you, and I'll see you another time. Thank you very much.